Hi, and welcome to Unprecedented Journey for what will be our last broadcast of the 2020 season. I'm your host, Jeff Oppenheim, and I thank you for being with me today, as well as for past broadcasts that we've been fortunate enough to bring you since March. And in fact, what we want to do as we prepare to welcome in the new year and sit down for a glorious and sumptuous meal to hopefully welcome in a great new year, we wanted to look back at some of the advice we received here from friends, colleagues, and a variety of experts that offered resource, their thoughts, and really motivation in some ways to push forward during this time. Because this time has been like no other any of us, I believe, have seen before. We have all suffered great personal loss of a loved one, a friend, or the friend of a friend even. And we shall never recover from that loss, no doubt. We have all seen some level of economic hardship and certainly every level of social, political, civic unrest that was there before, no doubt, was laid bare by the pandemic. A global pandemic. What it's done for all of us, I think, is put a certain perspective on things. And I think if there's a silver lining, even if slim, something to hang on to as we push forward into hopefully a more glorious new year, is that, well, we've been able to respond and adapt. And I don't mean in the small ways, the small little contrivances and inconveniences of masking up for the greater good, or limiting our gatherings, or fun and frivolity, but really in coming together, being responsive, being communicative, and being willing to jump into activation and serve each other for the greater good. That's what this series has been about. That's how it came about. That's why we started it. So I take great pride and joy on behalf of my fellow producers, looking back at some of the brief, wonderful moments we've been able to share with you, the great resources, I believe, at least moments of inspiration that maybe will help you lift a glass to the new year. I'll join you at the end to lift that glass, but let's have a look now. See, quarantine has been around for centuries. It's as old as trade, commerce, and travel itself. In fact, the word quarantine comes from the Italian 40 giorni, which literally translates to 40 days. This was the practice when ships coming into the port of Venice would have to sit at anchor for 40 days until they were actually allowed to come to harbor. Now, that was a good practice back then in the 14th century when travel was pretty darn slow. Wouldn't it seem like a great idea about now? Maybe we can draw a lesson from the 14th century sailors and settle into safe harbor, rely on each other as best we can to keep spirits up, and instead of dreading it, use it as a time to motivate, reboot, to activate, change our ways, and realign. Get some things done that we never seem to have the time to do. At this point, we're well into the coronavirus quarantine, and many of us are probably feeling a wee bit anxious, not only about the present, but also about what the future might hold. And as I began to think about it for myself, I could think of no better person to speak to. Randy, thank you so much for joining us today.
I was formerly incarcerated. I did 15 years in federal prison for drug crime. Back in the 90s. I spent from 1992 to 2005 in federal prison. If I had to add it up, I'd say totally I spent about 30 years of my life in and out of the revolving door of the criminal justice system. I've been out for 15 years, been somewhat successful in my endeavors. I've written several books. One of the books that I'm most known for is called Changing Your Game Plan, How I Used Incarceration as a Stepping Stone for Success. When I was incarcerated, man, motivation, it was hard to come by sometimes, to be totally honest with you. You know, you're surrounded by people, 1,000, just say 1,000 guys who are not really the most happiest campers in the world, you know what I'm saying? So here you come talking about the future, you know, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I mean, you dealing with people whose outlook on the future is so bleak that you don't even want to share the things that you want to do when you get out, because it's going to go into, you know, you're going to put that energy into people who really not even on that mindset. Either you're going to use your time productively or you're going to waste your time. And then when this thing finally resolves itself, you're going to be stuck behind the 8 ball, because no matter what nobody tell you, life is not going to be the same.
Actually, this COVID had one good thing come of it, and like you mentioned, I love to read, but and I used to read 2 novels a week, but I found that after having kids, it was impossible. But now with COVID, because we can't go out, I get to read and not feel like I should be doing things, you know? There are books that I feel are really wonderful and haven't had enough attention, so I've been using this opportunity to learn how to write reviews. There are certain authors that get a lot of attention, and I'm really happy for them, but then there are other, you know, it's like the larger publishing houses have their 1 or 2 Blacks, Latinos, Asians, and then they're like, well, we're covered. But that's not actually true diversity. True diversity is being diverse. And so for me, a lot of what I do is really trying to find this space to bring in these other authors who wouldn't normally have get the attention that they deserve.
Most of the support has to come from you and your family, and then maybe a few writers will have that mentality of being really good people who want to help others. But most writers are by themselves, working by themselves, and are not necessarily, you know, the touchy-feely, let me hug you, you know, while you work through your novel draft. You know, writers aren't going to do that.
I'm a person that needs community. And I'm going to tell you, wherever I've lived in the world, I made it a point to nurture a community of writers who can give me feedback, who I can be inspired by their work before I present it out to a larger audience. So that's very important into my sort of creative process.
You know, when you come upon an author who you haven't seen before or heard of, look them up. I'll bet you anything that that author would be happy to do a conversation with your book group, or, you know, a talk at your library.
I do think in order to write long-term, at some level, you need to get a cookie. And what I mean by that is you need something back from the universe. You know, I see this more with poets. Like, you know, poets oftentimes are communicating directly with an audience. They'll start in, you know, whatever point, they'll write some poems, and within sometimes a couple of weeks, they are in front of a microphone sharing those poems to other people, or sharing those poems to other people within a writing group.
I have no idea, like, unless people tell me how they feel. And fortunately for me, I've had a lot of people have contacted me and, you know, shown me my book on Facebook and tagged me and stuff. And that has been so rewarding. You know, something like that, it seems so minor, but it gives the author a lot. It gives them confidence. It gives them a feeling of, I was slaved away at this book for 14 years, and look, people actually care. It's making a difference. People love it. One
thing I try and tell my students all the time is typing is easy, writing is hard.
Did you know that Sir Isaac Newton, you know, the guy with the apple and the gravity thing, he actually had to work at home in the 1600s when the Black Plague ravaged all of Europe and shut down the campus where he went to school, University of Cambridge. He would later describe this period of time as the most productive period of time in his life. If it was good for Newton back in the 1600s, what's our excuse in this age of efficiency? Now, whether you live alone or whether you live with family or even a roommate, you're going to want to carve out your own dedicated workspace. In fact, probably everybody should. Now, your workspace is probably going to be a little less complicated than mine. But like mine, your desk will need to be free of clutter. No piles of papers, you know, bills that need to be paid. Right now, that's a distraction on this desk. All you really need is your computer, an external hard drive or 2. I like an old school notebook because you can make notes from a phone call or jot down things that you have to remember that have nothing to do with your project right now. Buy milk. You're also going to want to have your resource materials at the ready for whatever project you're working on. I also like a little bit of inspiration on the desk. What a it shouldn't be a distraction. Maybe you could give us the basic aspects of Buddhism, and then we'll talk about meditation specifically.
Buddhism originally, I wouldn't say it's really a religion. It's really just for people to realize the potential of their own mind, and through practicing the disciplines, which is to discipline oneself, and then meditation, and also there are tons of other ways to practice Buddhism, and the purpose is to eliminating greed, anger, and ignorance.
Politics and religion, they do not mix, they collide. Now, you referenced the 2020 election currently, right now, and the tone of it. I would tend to agree. In my lifetime, and I've seen a few elections since 1972, I don't remember, and of course, how the fight is conducted, right? It's done differently on social media, and God, traditional media almost looks tame by comparison. But nevertheless, regardless of the information platform, I've never seen anything like this in terms of the intensity of the political and religious rhetoric to get at least on one side a candidate elected, and it's prompted the other side to certainly put out a message that's very faith-based.
The election and the election turmoil has added and compressed not only the issues of the election and COVID itself, but also just on levels of divisiveness and social change.
Politics and religion is nothing new. It's just that this is being used, as I mentioned before, as a sword or a hammer for votes.
Just recently, a friend of mine and I decided we had been working very hard and we needed to get away. We were going to take a day trip. And this particular day was the Saturday after the election in this country. And we just said we need to escape. So what did I do? In preparation, I got up that morning, I ran down to the supermarket and purchased all the things for a fixing for a fine picnic. What I decided to do here was make a picnic for my friends, my friend and my mother. This was a day about letting go, relaxing, just being in a space bigger than any of us. Just about now, my friend's phone rang, and it was her mom calling from their home country, Chile, South America. It's a beautiful coastal strip of land, incredible biodiversity. Chile. We might say Chile. Okay. So her mom calls, and loud enough, but in her native tongue, we all hear it in the car, she says, "Felicidades, tienes un nuevo presidente." Very excited. Wait, did I get that right? Yes. Subtitles, read them. That said, we were all like, wait, no. And my friend even said, no, Mom, not yet. They're still tabulating. We're going through this ridiculous process right now. It's going on much longer. She said, no. They just announced it on a news channel here in Chile. So I start scrolling. My mom starts scrolling. And at this point, my mom chimes in and says, yes, actually, I'm starting to see it populate on the news sites here as well. We had a proclaimed winner, Biden-Harris. Everyone in the world was watching what was going on here in the U.S., and they were all lighting up with the news. We could breathe. Politics aside, this was just a moment when the world was watching. Our democracy was being put to the test. And ultimately, say what you want about the right or the left, blue or red, our democracy and the process of we the people worked.
In 1946, the United Nations, the beginnings of the United Nations, and at the same time, the Economic and Social Council was put together under the umbrella of the United Nations. And obviously, coming after the Second World War, everything was a disaster. The economy, that at the time, the atrocities that some people went through with the war, and just everything was upside down, and there was no hope for humans at the time. So the Economic and Social Council, they decided to put a commission together that was going to oversee human rights. And this commission was put together by 18 members, and the 18 members, they all came from different nations with very different political views because they wanted diversity. From my part, being Chilean, I was very surprised to learn that we had the only Latino in from the 18s in the group. The members was Hernan Santa Cruz, who was from Chile. So imagine, I was very surprised, very proud, because I'm also, as you know, I was born and raised in Chile, and I am an advocate of human rights. I have been all my life. So this was very, very, very important to me. It took 2 years to draft everything and to pass it through the UN system. And on December 10, 1948, the Declaration of Human Rights was presented to the world, and now we all have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This book has to be in every home. Remember, the power starts with you. You have the power, you have the rights, and you have the power to change things yourself.
Think about this. As long as you have a roof over your head, a warm bed to sleep in, a place to shower, 3 square a day, and maybe even a little love in your life, well, you know what? The sad part of that is you probably have more than a lot of people around the world.
We've been in this country for 34 years. We came from Colombia. We were not able to, I was not able to vote until 10 years ago. So that was a big relief, and being a U.S. citizen was one of the highlights of my life. Can I exhale though? I don't think I can. I think I'm still holding my breath at times. I think that I hold my breath at times when I see what's happening around the country and the agony that some are living. And so sometimes it's hard to breathe. The pressure is a lot. And there's some days where you just can't breathe because of everything that's happening, the climate in the country, the suffering, the pain that folks of color are living. It's hard.
Giving is one of the most selfish things you could do.
The charity that I support is Mary Center. For the past 30 years, Mary Center has embraced all communities by providing high-quality healthcare, providing social services and education that stabilize family, not just in the physical front, but also financially, education, and providing the needs that the community sometimes lacks, specifically those that are migrants into the country. Mary Center is an organization that I have been deeply devoted to because I understand the passion and the mission, not just of their leadership team, but of their entire staff. They are looking to making sure that individuals that need healthcare can get access to it. And that's why I've enjoyed being with them for the past 10 years.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Osterhoff, and I'm the author of a book called The Many Faces of Happiness, Inspiring Stories on What Makes People Happy. Today, what makes me happy is to support the rescue mission of Trenton. Their goal is to end homelessness one person at a time by offering shelter, supportive housing, vocational development, and behavioral health counseling. I love the quote from their executive director. She said, "For over 100 years, when a homeless person knocks on our door, we only ask them 2 questions. What's your name? And are you hungry?" And then one of our staff will sit down with a homeless person and help them map out a path to what is next. I support them by donating clothes and through financial contributions. You can do the same. In addition to this, you can also give online classes such as personal finance, photography, or meditation, and even you can sponsor a dessert meal. I recall one day I interviewed a homeless lady in Trenton. It was a windy, rainy, and stormy November afternoon, and she was huddling under the eaves of a church, at the entrance of a church, clutching her hands between her legs to keep warm. When asked her what made her happy, she said, "I like to give people gifts. I like to put a smile on somebody's face." And I remember a flicker of a hope that went through her face as she said to me, "Elizabeth, call me in 6 to 8 weeks' time when I'm back on my feet, and we will go for coffee, and I will make you an apple pie. I am great at making apple pies." This holiday season, make yourself happy by creating happiness for somebody else.
working together, we can go shopping together, and we can make a difference by shopping with intent. We can support local economies, local businesses, artisans and craftspeople. We can do a lot of good in our immediate community and economy and beyond into the world as we begin to step forward out of COVID and out of any of the economic hardships that we've seen over the last year.
Hello, my name is Jody Scott and I am the CEO of Sierra Sage Herbs. We are a family-owned business that is located right outside of Boulder, Colorado. So we live right here in the foothills. We have a family farm with lots of chickens and dogs, and we grow a lot of the herbs. We don't grow the herbs more, but we do still grow herbs for personal use, and we have our family farm as well. So it's a really special spot. So we're probably best known for our plant-based first aid alternatives. So we have this very unique process called a lipid infusion, which extracts the medicinal properties from the plants. We use the actual plants, and we're able to slowly pull the medicinal properties from the plants, which is why our products yield such a high medicinal symptom relief components. So I sit on the board for an organization called PARSA, and I partnered with this organization so that we could create a herb garden project. This herb garden project teaches women refugees who have left Afghanistan and are trying to return home, and we're teaching them how to grow the herbs, make body care products from the herbs, and then sell them for economic development. So we call it the Trade Afghan Project, and we're getting incredible results. My sister and I developed the formulas specifically for the women refugees to be able to make these products and sell them locally. But in addition to that, we at Green Goo donate 1% of all of our sales for the first aid product to the PARSA organization to further develop this project. So we're excited to say we officially have 2 greenhouses. Trade Afghan is up and live, and there's all kinds of products for people to purchase. So you can also visit that site and make a purchase directly to PARSA, make a donation directly to PARSA, but then also by purchasing your Green Goo product, we'll be making a donation on your behalf.
Hi, I'm Heather Fink, the founder of The Sexiest Beauty.
Sexy. Hello. I'm beautiful, damn it. I am sexy. My sexiest truth? My truth is my sexiest beauty.
This is my sexiest beauty. Plain beautiful. That's my truth.
It breaks my heart that seniors are alone for the holidays. My own grandmom and many of your elderly loved ones are unable to see their own families and friends as they try to stay safe. They are more isolated and alone than ever. Meals on Wheels is dedicated to addressing senior isolation and hunger, delivering nutritious meals, friendly visits, and safety checks to America's seniors, delivering 221 million meals to America's seniors this year. Wishing you all a joyous, healthy holiday. Be safe and stay sexy.
Let's face it, the quarantine has not necessarily been our best friend in terms of good eating habits. We had Lynn Genet, who is not only a nutritionist, but she's an author, a meal maker, a restaurateur.
As you know from my diet, it's chemistry, not calories, that affect your weight. And when you find the foods that work for your body, you are not only going to be at your best weight, you're going to be at your best health.
And she and I started talking about not just about meals and food, but also about food preparation, because so many of us went out and binge shopped going into our quarantine. And my bet is you probably let too much of that food go to waste. Well, Alive has helped me a lot with my own bachelor food prep, and so I wanted to share that knowledge with you. I asked Alive to come on our show today, so thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Wanted to show or share with you how to take care of all your vegetables and not only the purchase, but then how to bring them home, wash and preserve until you're gonna cook. It's definitely very important because not only to save money, but what are you really putting in your body?
Especially now.
And if they are very sad, the vitamins and everything is just
very weak. Yeah.
Very weak.
Today I was just writing about garlic, and garlic not only helps to lower our cholesterol, but it's strongly antiviral. So include a little extra garlic in your meals.
Like this, you put them inside of the container.
Oregano, strongly antiviral. Thyme, strongly antiviral, right? Right now we want to eat foods that help to fight viruses. There's been an herb which I find amazing, which is called mullein leaf. And mullein leaf helps to fight bronchitis and pneumonia, and it's antiviral. Well, let's do that. There's an herb that I love that I always promote. It's called lemon balm, which is in the mint family. And it helps to fight anxiety and aid a deep sleep. So why not just add that to your food?
Voila, we get a feast. So Olivia, walk me through this meal now. We've got, looks like a 3-course meal here. So walk me through it.
A very important concept to remember is that your body will always divert energy from healing to digestion. And when you eat the foods that work for your body doesn't spend as much energy digesting and instead goes back to repair.
We're going to sit down to dinner. I'm going to sign off here because I want to just enjoy, kick back and relax with Olivia, who's worked so hard to not only prep all this and teach us everything, but also to cook it and show me how it's done. Bon appetit! Maybe as an alternative to binge watching or game playing, you can actually enjoy something that easel.net offers.
One thing that we can do is utilize all the great new technology platform and resources available to us right now to, one, help alleviate any boredom or feelings of cabin fever with this current self-quarantining and isolation phase we're in, as well as to engage ourselves with more education and stimulating content outside of just the typical Netflix binge. How that transfers over, I say, visiting Easel or using, virtual tours and exhibitions to kind of almost get a head start on the museum before an in-person visit, I think is one of the best ways to just help better inform your program. Plan out your visit so you maximize the time you have there. It'll help you get accustomed and familiar to the space, so you're not as confused or lost, especially in larger institutions. And as well as if you're gonna kind of preview the space, if you will, because I like to say a lot of these exhibition tours are previews for the museums or for the gallery exhibitions themselves. It'll allow you to work with your family or sit down with your family and pick out the highlights and see stuff. My greatest hope is that it inspires a real-world visit.
My last documentary had me traveling around the world visiting not only museums but talking to a lot of arts professionals. If you haven't seen the doc, please rent it. It's a great watch one evening. Real Fake, The Art, Life and Crimes of Elmir Dahori. You can find it on Amazon, Vudu, a variety of sources. Here are a few additional things that you can do other than just wait online all day. If you're home with the family, one thing I loved to do all the time with my kids was turn it into an old-fashioned game night. Pictionary is one that is great fun, and another one is Scrabble, especially if you've got older kids. They're going to love to get into the word play. Another thing you can do, a lot of people love to take their own photographs and turn them into their very own Christmas cards. So you can use this time when everyone's sitting at home, gathered around. Friday or any time the weekend is the best time to do it. Everybody dress up either in their finest or in their wackiest and get everybody together, take that picture for your own holiday card. Everybody say cheese. Not only do you have to go and take that new photograph that you wanted to take, but you might want to go back and revisit some of the old ones that you have just around the house, lying loose for that rainy day chore that you want to do always, and that's put them into this family scrapbook here. And the other thing you can do either with the whole family there or with friends that are remote on a Zoom session is get together remotely or in person with a little musical session. You can gather around whatever instruments everybody has and make a little noise fest, joyous noise for everybody. Now, if you are still in bed with that special someone lying next to you, keep it a quiet morning. Do something that you never take the time to do. I meant reading. Reading to each other. When was the last time you did that other than the morning headlines once in a while? Pick something great, pick something romantic, pick something playful like a children's story. How about a beautiful sonnet for your love? Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration. Well, I'd like to believe that we at Unprecedented Journey have been as soothing on the ear as a Shakespearean sonnet. But at the very least, our goal has been to serve as an essay, if you would, on our times, and certainly to provide advice and resource as a means to move forward and persevere. Persevere is what we must indeed do as we face 2021. And as we toast 2021, we must first toast with great solemnity those that we have had to say farewell to. All of us has suffered a loss, no doubt an unbelievable loss of a loved one. And to those, on behalf of all of us, we lift our glass. And on behalf of my co-producer, Olive, and my co-contributor, Paul, and for that matter, for all my guests that we've had on the show, I'd like to offer a toast for 2021. And that is that I hope 2020 hindsight can be what informs and inspires tomorrow's journey. On that note, I thank you all for joining me, not only this year, but hopefully in the new year. Until that time, stay safe, stay well, and stay whole.